Hello and welcome to UMD News for this hour, dear listeners and viewers. I'm Shimelis Gebremichael. In this edition, drone strikes hit Ethiopia's Tigray region after ceasefire offer local authorities. Subsequent rounds of airstrikes also killed 10 on Tigray's capital, Mekelle. A wounded Ethiopia. Once celebrated as a regional power broker, Ethiopia today is a ripe target for opportunists, reports Council on Foreign Relations. We will present to you in more details in this edition later. More than 20 million at risk as famine emerges in the Horn of Africa. And now we'll move into the news in details. We invite you all to stay with the program. In the meantime, please do not forget to like and share our programs and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is UMD News with me, Shimelis Gebremichael. First up, drone strikes hit Ethiopia's Tigray region after ceasefire offer local authorities. Other subsequent rounds of strikes also killed, mainly in the capital Mekelle, 10 people and injured many and destroyed residential properties. One person was injured in drone strikes in Mekelle University and a TV station in Ethiopia's Tigray region. The station and the hospital officials told different media outlets after Tigray forces voiced readiness for another ceasefire with the federal government. One of the two strikes on Tuesday hit the business campus of Mekelle University, while the other hit Gebremichael TV station that is run by the regional government, said Gebremichael, Chief Executive Officer at Eider Referral Hospital. He cited a witness who arrived with a man wounded in the strike. The second drone knocked the TV station off the air, Gebremichael said in a statement posted on Facebook. Images shared by the station appeared to show damaged transmission equipment on the building's roof. Tigrayan regional government spokesperson Gebremichael Reda said on Twitter that the business campus had been hit by drones. Ethiopian military spokesperson Colonel Gebremichael Adana and government spokesperson Legesse Tulu did not respond to requests for comment. It was third instance of aerial strikes in Mekelle since the nearly 2-year-old conflict resumed late last month after a 5-month ceasefire. Each side has blamed the other for the renewed fighting. The Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF, which governs Tigray, said on Sunday it was ready for a further truce without preconditions and would accept an African Union-led peace process. Meanwhile, subsequent attacks of residential areas on Wednesday, September 14 in Tigray's capital Mekelle killed about 10 innocent civilians and injured others. Sources from Tigray Authority indicate that the recent multiple military offensives to Tigray were coordinated with alleged fake documents, voice messages, radio exchange videos, SM documents, and embassy campaigns, and called for the international community to stop the attacks on innocent civilians. In a second day of airstrike against the capital of Tigray, Mekelle, it killed 10 on Wednesday, hospital officials also confirmed. According to Reuters, among the casualties in Mekelle were a father killed in the second strike and his son, a doctor, wounded when tending victims, said Fasika Amdeselase, a surgeon at Mekelle's Eider Referral Hospital. Some 13 people were also wounded. 5 of the victims died en route to the hospital, said Eider's CEO Gebremichael. Another 5 died at the scene in an area called Dagem Amsal, he said, citing Mekelle's emergency coordinator. Gebremichael said the hospital was struggling to save the wounded because of supply shortages in a region largely cut off from aid. I don't know what to do. I am to lose every salvageable victims because there is no oxygen or medicine, he said. Reuters also recalled that this 2-year-long war has killed thousands of civilians, uprooted millions, destroyed hundreds of schools and clinics, and caused starvation in Tigray. A wounded Ethiopia. Report from Council on Foreign Relations. We'll bring it to you in more details, dear listeners and viewers. Last month, Ethiopia's Tigray conflict resumed after months of truce, once again bringing desperately needed humanitarian aid flows to a halt and growing in neighboring Eritrea's armed forces. The return of outright hostilities in Tigray has prompted more intense international efforts to get a peace process on track, including the deployment of U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, to the region for intensive talks with the parties to the conflict. External actors who desire stability in the Horn recognize that neither of the main antagonists can decisively defeat the other. The setback in Tigray came in the context of escalating civil conflict in multiple parts of Ethiopian state, from Afar and Oromia to Benishangul Gumuz and Gambella. Questions about the capacity of the Ethiopian government to provide security throughout the country have grown more urgent. An incident in July in which Al-Shabaab fighters crossed into Ethiopia from Somalia to stage attacks suggests that they perceived Ethiopia to be both weakened and distracted. It is difficult not to get a sense that the government in Addis Ababa, which has little economic room to maneuver, has no real long-term strategy for coping with these multiple crises. Ironically, Prime Minister Abiy initially rallied domestic and diaspora support for his scorched earth tactics in Tigray by framing the conflicts as one in which Ethiopia's sovereignty and right to self-determination was at stake. However, as his government becomes overwhelmed by security and economic struggles on multiple fronts, it becomes an ever more appealing target for international opportunists of all stripes, from organizations like Al-Shabaab to governments that can offer some short-term relief in the form of economic support and weapons, even as they build long-term leverage and influence. In the geostrategically vital Horn of Africa, Ethiopia has gone from a power that shaped the contours of regional dynamics to a state cobbling together reactions to the forces affecting it. The outcome is precisely the opposite of the one that Ethiopian nationalists seek. If the state can avoid collapse, it may be far more beholden to outsiders than just 2 years ago. The circumstances look similarly grim for actors like the United States, which seeks to avoid regional contagion and aims to build solid African support for rules-based international order. Instead, the Horn of Africa grows more unstable. Malign actors like Eritrea are emboldened, and the horrifying human costs of a man-made famine in Tigray lay bare the international system's dysfunction. In the face of fierce Ethiopian resistance to UN Security Council involvement, the supposed guarantors of international peace and security have been unable to meaningfully address the Tigray issue despite its interstate dimensions and collective international efforts to place humanitarian siege strategies beyond the pale of acceptability globally. A ray of hope emerged on Sunday when Tigrayan forces indicated they were prepared to enter into a mutual cessation of hostilities agreement and participate in the African Union-led talks without delay. This announcement created a new opportunity to build positive momentum toward an end to the Tigray crisis. Whether real progress toward lasting peace will materialize remains to be seen. But what is not in doubt is just how difficult the outlook for Ethiopia will be without it. And finally, more than 20 million at risk as famine emerges in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopian relief workers are finding disturbing evidence of death and hunger as they reach drought-stricken villages in Oromia, one of many regions in the Horn of Africa where humanitarian operations are increasingly hindered by war and insurgency. More than 20 million people, mostly in Somalia and Ethiopia, are in urgent need of aid after 4 consecutive seasons of failed rains in the worst drought in 40 years, United Nations agencies estimate. Famine is already beginning to emerge in some Somali regions, and meteorologists are warning of a 5th season without rains later this year. In a village in eastern Oromia, volunteer aid workers found a woman named Najuma Oda collecting muddy brown water from a post hole on a dirt road. A nearby river had dried up, and now she was walking up to 7 hours to fetch water from remote areas. 8 of her 10 cows died in recent days, she told the workers. The region is normally fertile enough to produce cash crops for export, but now the pastures and livestock are dying. Aid workers from Oromo group Chaya humanitarian organization met community leaders who described how starvation has killed many villagers and left others fainting from hunger. Relief agencies have found it difficult to reach drought-stricken regions in Ethiopia and Somalia, where armed militias are battling government forces. Without aid, many families are forced to migrate. More than 1 million people have abandoned their homes in Somalia because of the failed rains, while more than 160,000 people in southern Oromia have been displaced by drought, according to UN estimates. Obsa Malicha, a 40-year-old marketer trader from Bale zone in southeastern Oromia who left his home in late August, said, "The dead people are sometimes left without a grave because there is nobody with enough strength to dig one." In a telephone interview, he told the Globe and Mail how one village woman had died of hunger as her infant child was trying to nurse from her. The cattle of the local farmers are dying every day, he said. Others gave similar accounts. "I lost all of my 35 cows, and I'm not the only one," said Boru Guyo, a farmer in Borena zone in southern Oromia who left his village when the rains failed. "I haven't seen government aid in any form," he told the Globe. By the end of April, an estimated 1.3 million livestock had died from the drought in Oromia, while another 2 million were too weak to move, local officials told Ethiopian media at the time. The crisis has only worsened since then. In Somalia, there are signs of famine in 2 areas in the south-central region of the country, and millions of people are facing extreme levels of acute hunger, according to a report by UN agencies and other humanitarian groups last week. Well, dear viewers and listeners, with that, we come to the end of the news for today, for this edition. This has been UMD Media News with me, Shimelis Marissa Gebremichael. Thank you for watching and have a good one.